Mein Name ist Markus Benzmann. Sie sagen, Sie haben den Report hier in Berlin präsentiert. Meine Frage, wir haben ja hier in Berlin die Konrad-Adenauer-Stiftung. Das ist eine große Parteienstiftung, die sehr nahe der CDU ist, zurzeit regierende Partei. Und die unternimmt seit 2008 fast monatlich ein Habeas-Corpus-Seminar in Taschkent mit verschiedenen Professoren, die aus Deutschland eingeladen werden. Welchen Effekt, denken Sie, hat dieser Seminarzyklus der Konrad-Adenauer-Stiftung in Usbekistan? Denken Sie, dass langfristig damit das, was die Konrad-Adenauer-Stiftung sagt, ein Erziehungsprozess angestellt wird, oder ob die Konrad-Adenauer-Aktivität letztendlich nur der Propaganda des usbekischen Regimes dient?
Do you want to translate this one?
Yeah. Or you answered it already.
No, we should, I think, let's translate to Steve.
Yeah, okay. So, Steve, the Konrad Adenauer Foundation is doing training courses on a regular basis in Uzbekistan on habeas corpus. And is that effective, or is that just a propaganda tool of and for the Uzbek government?
Monthly seminars.
A monthly seminar.
Well, you know, the Uzbek government has learned over time sort of what the West wants to hear, and unfortunately this is an aspect of what we're talking about. The Uzbek government has become very sophisticated in using simply the running of these sorts of trainings and holding these sorts of seminars and discussions as an evidence of willingness to engage, to reform. And in fact, when you're in Uzbekistan, I was there when some of these seminars were happening, and you watch how excerpts of European experts, legal scholars being interviewed on Uzbek TV are edited and parsed and then translated and shown to the Uzbek population to say that we are extremely impressed by what we see here in this country. And of course the participants invited to such seminars are handpicked, selected by the government. And you know, even if there's can be some question as to whether or not democratic norms and ideas about the rule of law are being absorbed by the participants, the entire structure of the Uzbek government, the lack of independence of the judiciary, and what we've discussed in terms of the barriers to lawyers to access their clients, I think completely defeats the purpose of those trainings, because there's simply no political will to change the prevailing culture of the criminal justice system. So I think it's been the case that the West has hid behind these sorts of activities and used them as a substitute, a soft substitute for improvements in the country.
But do human rights watch going to challenge the Konrad Adenauer Foundation for the activities which they are doing, and to request them and to discuss it why they are doing it?
I think it's a good question. I think the Konrad Adenauer Stiftung is indeed misguided in doing such seminars. They are running the danger of being misused by the Uzbek authorities. With full information, I think it would be absolutely appropriate for us to engage with the Konrad Adenauer Stiftung and request them, unless there are safeguards on raising human rights issues, clear evidence-based research as we've been doing in such seminars, then it would be appropriate for them to stop doing such seminars, because we believe they're being misused by the Uzbek authorities.
Yeah. And as we try to say, I mean, the main problem of the West has been that you count the number of seminars, you count the number of human rights offices in Uzbekistan. You don't count the number of torture victims. You don't count the number of people detained without fair trial and so on. And that has been we're all in favor of human rights training, but we believe it has been a mistaken policy.
Bitte.
Ruby Russell for the Washington Times. What do you make of this amnesty, I think it's on female prisoners and prisoners that's just been announced?
Well, amnesty is a sort of become the moment where the international community has begun to place all its hopes for the release of political prisoners and other sorts of prisoners on the sort of humanitarian gesture, the grand humanitarian gesture of President Karimov. and it's become sort of sad ritual each year that the entire country and the international community wait with bated breath to see who will be amnestied. And we've seen in some of the recent releases of some of the political prisoners in this past few months and year that these are quite Pyrrhic victories when people are released. They're often released in horrible states of health, forced to discontinue their human rights work, or if they do want to continue speaking out, they have to flee the country. But the Uzbek government touts this liberalization, quote unquote, of the criminal justice system, and I think the amnesty is part of that, to show that there is a liberalization, a softening, but the reality is much more difficult to assess. Of course, human rights groups and international monitors are unable to really visit with these prisoners, many of them, and really assess the conditions that they've been in these prisons. But of course, it's obviously a good thing if even one person gets out of an Uzbek prison.
Der Tagesspiegel, bitte.
Oh, der kann sein. What's your message for the German government regarding the base in Termes? Should Germany close the base and stop paying millions of euros each year to the Uzbek government?
It's not our mandate, in a sense, to recommend closing the base or not. Obviously, we've expressed concern over many years about the priority the German government has given to Termes over human rights issues in the country. We feel the whole issue of Termes has overshadowed human rights issues. We feel there should be a clear division. Germany has a legitimate security interest in protecting its troops in Afghanistan, that's clear, but that is not a reason to look away from the severe human rights abuses we've been documenting today. That's the first point. Germany should speak out clearly about human rights issues and take the steps we're recommending putting on the agenda of the European Union, ensuring criteria on basic human rights issues which the Foreign Affairs Committee agreed for the European Union last year are met. If not, Germany should support the idea of punitive measures against specific individuals and institutions in Uzbekistan. Secondly, you're right, you pointed out the millions of euros. Germany last year spent almost 26 million euros in rent for the military base in Termes. A similar figure is expected to be spent in 2011. We have to recall that not only is Uzbekistan a regime that continues with human rights abuses, it's also a corrupt regime where power is centered on the government of President Karimov. And we would simply ask to make sure the German government is absolutely sure the money is being appropriately used, not flowing into the hands of the personal coffers, as it were, of the president and his cronies.